Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I've got a full review to do for you on the Bladeswelove PM2 Ultra. Anyways, the PM2 Ultra is different from a regular PM2. If you've watched my unboxing on this or my first impressions, you'll know that there is a specific feature that makes this very different from any other PM2 that exists currently. I don't know of anybody else other than Bladeswelove who's doing this to PM2s. There is a sea of mods available for the PM2. The Paramilitary 2, I don't want to say, some people call it like the Honda Civic of the knife world because there's so much aftermarket availability and it's somewhat affordable compared to a lot of other things. Some people call it the Glock of the knife world. I'm not going to say I necessarily agree with either of those being like spot on. Also, I apologize if I have to swat at bugs while you're watching, but they're everywhere today. Anyways, they're heavily modifiable. Let's call it that. There's a whole sea of options of things you can do between clips from several different providers, deep carry clips, titanium milled clips, Damascus clips. You can get all kinds of clips. You can do scales. You can do scales in carbon fiber, micarta, different G10s. You can do them in wood. There's tons of options of PM2 scales out there. What else? Hardware swaps. You could swap every bit of hardware on your PM2 if you want to. You can plug the lanyard hole. You can do titanium anodized hardware. You could probably get, I don't know, there's all kinds of stuff you can do. You can do regrinds. There are people who will regrind PM2s to give them thinner profiles, all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of options. But Bladeswelove is the only one who's making them into button locks. So what they've done is genius. Sincerely. Spyderco came out with the smock. I assume that's when Bladeswelove saw that to make the smock work, Spyderco did a compression lock that was backwards, like a lefty compression lock, and they put a button on it and a hole in the scale so you could press it. It's really that simple. That's all a smock does. I've owned a smock. It functions exactly like this to me, the end user. If there's any difference, I can't perceive it. So Bladeswelove was like, hey, there's a lefty PM2. Why don't we take advantage of that and do the same thing that they did on the smock? We'll drill a little hole so that we can screw a little piece of round stock on there, create a button on that, and then you just have to have a hole in the scale for the button to travel through. Once you do that, boom, son, you got a button lock PM2. So the simplicity makes this function and feel and still be a PM2. They didn't have to do anything crazy here. This is a lefty PM2 that has been modified to be a button lock. I don't think it would be that easy for someone to do in their garage. I think if you want to have one of these, you should probably go to Bladeswelove for it. But I love that they took that idea and they're making it work in this way and that it came out so well. So before I jump into the kind of specs of this particular knife and talk about it a little more in depth for this specific one, let's talk about a couple of things about it a little bit philosophically. Number one would be what I think is the biggest downfall of this starting as a lefty PM2, because that's the way that they're able to make it work, is it's a lefty PM2. That's how the lock travels in the opposite direction that it normally does so that they can make the button lock work from the correct side for a right-handed user. The bummer about that is that the only blade steel, the only configuration that Spyderco offers on lefty PM2s, to my understanding, is satin S30V. Sorry, these bugs are really getting me. So if you want a PM2 Ultra, it's got to be satin S30V blade. That's it. That's your option. Because otherwise the button would be on the other side. It would be on the wrong side for a right-handed user. What that could mean, I don't know if Bladeswelove does this or if they've thought about it, but for lefty PM2 Ultras, they could use any Spyderco Paramilitary 2. You could take my 10V Scorpion PM2 and with the right scales and adding that button component, you could make it a lefty PM2 Ultra, which would be dope. But for right-handed users, using a right-handed PM2 would put the button on the wrong side. And it's not like they can just blade swap this because the cut for the lock bar is directional. Like the way that the compression lock sits in it wouldn't work. So that's what I would say is like the one bummer about it. If this could be had in cooler blade steels and still be a right-handed button lock, people would be stoked. And I've heard several people comment about that after doing my first impressions video a lot of people are like, oh man, I wish I could have it. And even just a coated blade or in a different blade material, like if this was 20CV or M4 or 10V or K390, one of those really great Maximet, something, that'd be awesome. If Spyderco makes a Maximet Lefty PM2, we're in business. That'd be great. The other thing I want to say is I think there's a specific kind of type of buyer for this knife. I'm not the one selling them, so I probably shouldn't even really go down this rabbit hole, but I'm gonna. I imagine the people who are buying this knife either have a lot of PM2s already, and this is exciting because it's a different expression of a PM2 that they don't already have. Like, I know people who have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, like not only all of the PM2 sprints and exclusives and production versions that exist or have existed, but oftentimes multiples of them. Like, there are people who collect just the PM2. Great for them. That's not the way I buy them, but for those people, this is real exciting because that's super different. It's like really about as different as you can get and still be a PM2. So that buyer exists, I would imagine. The other main person who I could imagine really clinging to this would be somebody who digs the PM2 for its ergos, its functionality, but maybe doesn't particularly like the compression lock. I personally love compression locks. I really do. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, lock type for like a EDC user style knife. But there are people out there who don't like it, who it doesn't function for them very well. So this is certainly an option because a button lock feels and functions way different from a regular compression lock. In fact, I find myself, because this is a PM2, I keep reaching like I want to disengage it. And I have to remind myself it's a button lock. But once I've had this in hand for a minute and I start playing with it, my goodness, is this one of the most fun to fidget with, not only PM2s, but just knives in general that I've ever experienced. The way that this action just tings down and bounces, and it's super mechanical, and it's a really well dialed PM2. And the fact that it's a button lock makes it way more fun to play with. Sincerely, it's just a blast to play with. My favorite thing about the smock that I owned was that it was a button lock. This gives you all of the advantages of having a button lock, like a smock, but to me, the smock wasn't nearly as good of a user knife as a PM2. So here you get all of the features and function that I love in a PM2, and all of the fun of the lock mechanism of a smock. And you don't have to remove that stupid secondary detent yourself because it's not in here. Anyway, I think this is awesome. I think if you're looking at an S30V smock, then I would consider one of these instead, personally. Now, there's been a 20CV exclusive smock. I imagine there are other exclusive and sprints somewhere down the line of smocks. So if blade steel makes a difference to you, then there's that conversation to be had. But let's talk about the rest of this knife, because it goes beyond just the button lock. Like, that's, of course, the shining feature, but Bladeswelove has done more to this. So we've got a full titanium hardware set, and it's anodized bronze, which is turning a little bit purpley, but with some Windex and a rag, you can take care of that super easy. It'll be bronze again. I've got this bronze clip on here. I believe this is a Lynch clip. It looks to me like it's a Lynch clip, and it matches the hardware super well. And the G10 is what I really should be talking about, because these are custom G10 scales. This is white G10. The fact that it's white, I think, looks awesome. I wouldn't pick white, however, because I'd be real worried about carrying this in jeans and having it turn blue. I'd be worried about my hands staining it if they're dirty. It's going to look dirty real quick. And this isn't the kind of like user outdoorsy knife that I'd want to look dirty. So I even know Jason, who lent me this knife. He has another set of scales that he just got from Bladeswelove for this. So he's going to be putting those on when this gets back to him. But beyond the color, let's talk about how good this G10 is, because these feel like factory G10 scales in terms of their form, the lines, everything about them feels exactly like a G10 scale from Spyderco to me, except all of the sandpapery texture is gone. Every bit of it. And I love that. My PM2, I don't want to be smooth like this. My 10V PM2 is a knife that I will take outdoors and places like this, and I will use hard, and I like that it's gritty for circumstances like that. But this setup on a PM2, if I had one of these, I wouldn't be taking it outdoors. S30V and like fidgety like this would be an EDC knife for me, and a knife that I'd play with a lot. And the smooth G10 on this feels really, really well done. It's just great. All of the spots for the hardware are chamfered and countersunk just perfectly. The edges on this are knocked down just a little bit, so it's not a right angle. Just the very edge of it has been knocked off. It feels awesome in hand. And frankly, the ergos of the PM2, this knife is not slippery at all. Like, the shape of this handle, even if this was like genuinely slick, like if it was wet in this texture, I still wouldn't be worried about this knife slipping out of my hand, because the way for me that a PM2 rests with this shape here, it's so perfectly locked in on my hand. So I wouldn't be at all worried about usability with this handle finish. Anyway, I really don't want to go on too long, but this is a super unique, super fun, super different option for people, like I said, who have a lot of PM2s, people who don't particularly like the compression lock, or there could certainly also be somebody who's never even tried a PM2. They don't even know whether they like or dislike the compression lock or the way it functions, but this is more exciting to them because it's more fun. Like, I genuinely think this is more fun as a PM2 across the board. I love the compression lock and the way it functions. I'm a compression lock fanboy, but this is so much more enjoyable to sit and play with. And from the night that I unboxed this, this has been one of my favorite things to sit down with and watch movies or watch shows or whatever it is that I'm doing. If I'm uploading videos and I'm sitting there waiting for a minute, if this knife is by me, I want to play with it endlessly. It's just so much fun. And it's so slick and smooth. Like, for a knife on washers, my goodness, it's really, really great. So thank you again to Jason, who lent me this one. Again, I will link all of the Millie PM2 Para3 Club stuff down below, the Facebook, the Instagram, the YouTube, so you can check them out there. If you enjoy what I do, you're going to enjoy what they do. If you're on Facebook and you enjoy the knife community, that club is the one to be in. It is my favorite club on Facebook. If you like Spyderco at all, you'll sincerely enjoy it. They post great stuff on Instagram. They're just awesome group of guys. Jason and Thomas are at the head of the ship there. And so, Jason, you're the man. I appreciate you lending this to me. He also lent me the Millie and the Carry Gordo. So I appreciate all of that. And these knives are about to go back to him. And I'm going to miss this one probably the most, frankly, of the ones that he sent me, which I didn't think was going to be the case. I wanted to check out the Millie because I'd never experienced one. And the Carry Gordo was just different and unique. And don't get me wrong, that knife was exciting too. But this was one that I thought would be kind of gimmicky because I'd never experienced it before. And I thought because I'd had a smock, I just thought it wasn't going to be that exciting to me, but maybe you guys would like seeing it. And turns out you guys kind of have, I think. My first impressions video, a lot of people have watched so far, but this has been one of the more exciting knives that I've checked out in a long time. It's really, really cool. And I'm trying to convince myself I don't need one because they're not exactly super cheap, although I do think the pricing is pretty fair now that I've handled one and see what you get. It's great. I'll try to put a link as well in the description to these on the Bladeswelove website. I don't know if he has any available right now. I have talked to Steve from Bladeswelove once or twice in DMs. Super nice guy. He's always been really helpful if I've ever needed like hardware for a random knife, bunch of stuff. They do a lot more than just this. Bladeswelove has all kinds of stuff to get your mod project done. But these they sell complete and they put it together so well. This is a really well executed knife. So I'll link to it down below. I don't know if they have them right now. If they don't, I think he told me recently that they've got more coming soon. So things are obviously crazy right now, but yeah, I'll link to it down below and I'll link to Jason. And of course I'll put my links down below to my Patreon and to my t-shirts on Teespring. Thank you so much to my Patreon patrons and all those who support me by buying t-shirts, buying stickers from me. Those who just like, those who subscribe, those who comment, I see all of you and I appreciate it so much. I'm thoroughly enjoying having this channel and I'm creeping up on 1,000. We're almost there. So there will be a giveaway when I hit that. Stay tuned for it. And thank you so much for checking it out with me. This is the PM2 Ultra from Bladeswelove. And to my knowledge, it's the only button lock PM2 that exists. So you know where to go. Thanks, guys.